Call to order the Sparks City Council meeting for Monday, July 4th with a roll call.
Mayor Lawson.
What'd I say? July 24th. Did I say it wrong?
You said the 4th.
In my mind, it was July 24th. Didn't come out of my mouth that way, I guess. All right, how about a roll call then, Madam Clerk?
Mayor Lawson.
Here.
Council members Abbott.
Here.
Vanderwell.
Here.
Anderson.
Here.
Bybee.
Here.
Dare.
Here.
City Attorney Duncan. Here. City Manager Croots.
Here.
We have a quorum, thank you.
Thank you. We have our invocation by Pastor Smith.
Thanks for having me. I wanted to begin by reading Psalm 93. The Lord reigns, he is robed in majesty. The Lord is robed in majesty and armed with strength. Indeed, the world is established firm and secure. Your throne was established long ago. You are from all eternity. The seas have lifted up, Lord. The seas have lifted up their voice. The seas have lifted up their pounding waves. Mightier than the thunder of the great waters, mightier than the breakers of the sea, the Lord on high is mighty. Your statutes, Lord, stand firm. Holiness adorns your house for endless days. God, I thank you. I thank you that your throne has been established, that you rule. And God, I thank you for the city council. I thank you for the city that we live in. And God, I pray for those on the council that you would give them wisdom, that you would give them discernment. God, that peace would reign in the city council, that would overflow into our city as well. God, I pray for leaders in our city. I pray for those in that fight fires. I pray for those in law enforcement, small business owners. God, I pray for church leaders and those leading our schools. God, would you give them wisdom? You place them in leadership for such a time as this to lead well. But God, I confess too that we try and do it under our own autonomy, on our own at times, and forgive us for thinking we can. So would you help us to lean into you? And God, would your shalom, would your peace reign in our city and in our lives? We pray this in the name of Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Ms. Bybee, will you lead us in the pledge?
Absolutely. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I just like seeing you smile. Let's move on to public comment. Mr. Rock Cole, we haven't seen you in a little while.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Rock Cole. I'm here to speak about the Five Ridges project, namely the slopes above my house. I've seen the redesign from Wood Rogers, and the design is better. It adds a lot more riprap. It shortens the slope, which reduces the erodible surface areas. And they're putting the Pro Gains now on the hydro-seeded area, which is a tactifier. It holds it down, which is good. I don't know how long it lasts, but it works. The problem with it is it's got wetland mix. It's California wildflowers and grasses that'll never grow in Nevada. It needs to have sagebrush and bitterbrush and rabbit brush in it, things that grow in Nevada. You guys know that. On June 13th, there was a supercell that came over my house. I wasn't there. I wish I was, because I could have got some good video. It dumped 2.5 to 3 inches rain in 25 minutes is what they say, depending on where you're at. Can you imagine if that storm hits with all this disturbance, 7 football fields with their disturbance on a steep hill above my house? Granite construction is widening Pyramid Highway right now. Mayor Larson, you were at the groundbreaking. It's in the city of Sparks. Do you guys remember that paper, that hand-drawn plan I showed you at one of my last meetings of I called it effective naturalized slope treatment. It showed different kinds of riprap and designs, different sizes with placed boulders and a little bit of hydroseed. That's the exact thing that granite is doing to those slopes. Those slopes are minuscule compared to the slopes coming down to my house. Wood Rogers and Blake Smith tell me you won't let them riprap that slope completely above my house because it's not natural. I've never seen a man-made slope that looks natural anyway, but you can make it better. That slope along the highway is draining down to the desert. It's not going to hurt anybody. The slope above my house is coming straight down into my yard. It needs to be effective. What happens if a rainstorm like that hits during construction and all you have is that little silt fence between the last line of defense, between all that loose dirt and my yard? I'm going to be devastated. You guys are supposed to be my last line of defense. You guys are supposed to do what's right, and you've helped, but you can make it better, and it needs to be better, you guys. It needs to have riprap with fabric underneath it, or I'm gonna be damaged. It's illegal in the state of Nevada for an upper parcel owner to improve his land and damage a lower parcel owner. It's illegal to channelize water. It's illegal to send sediment transport down into a lower parcel. Muddy water has silt, silt is sediment. I urge you guys to do the right thing and make it better. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Rock. All right, Marcy Coopersmith, followed by Alexis Motorex. We haven't seen you guys in a little while, too.
I went red since, see? Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, Sparks City Council members. I'm Marcy Coopersmith, Vice Chair of the Sparks Senior Citizen Advisory Committee. I'm here today I got to put in the record how phenomenal our chair, Andrea Pelto, is of our Sparks Senior Citizen Advisory Committee. She is doing everything she can to get seniors to come to the Sparks Senior Center. So I think it needs to be known. She's gotten Bunko to come now there. We have Beanbag Baseball, and she's now started every second Friday is a music Friday, like a fun Friday with some ice cream. So I'm hoping August 11th, you'll all show up at 12. We have a left-handed guitarist who competed in the American Senior Idol events during Older Americans Month. It just needs to be put out there. She's like this tall. I don't know how she does it, but she's just doing everything and anything to make sure that the seniors want to come to our Sparks Senior Center.
Thank you. My name is Kyle Waxman. I'm also a member of the Sparks Senior Citizen Advisory Committee. I don't have much to add to Marcy's comments other than to say that Andrea does everything she can to improve the lives of seniors in the city of Sparks, and she's determined to make the Sparks Senior Center a thriving hub where there are activities for seniors around as long as it's open. As we would have said when I was younger, Andrea's a keeper. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Okay, Alexis Motorex, followed by Pam, is it Barr or Dar? Dar.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. My name is Alexis Motorex with the Nevada Chapter Associated General Contractors, representing the commercial construction industry in Northern Nevada. We're here on item 9.2 in support of Resolution 3428. A comprehensive lands bill is necessary for the continued growth and prosperity of not just the city of Sparks, but our region as a whole. We encourage your support and look forward to working with you and other stakeholders to pass a federal lands bill. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Pam Dar, followed by Kim Donahue.
First time here, so I've lived here a long time, my first time, so it says a lot of good things about you guys. On the 18th of this month, I called Sparks PD. We got a lot of graffiti in our neighborhood, and I was concerned. I guess the graffiti task force has been dissolved, and they brought it to my attention I can go online. Okay, I'm really busy trying to catch up with a lot of things, but I took the time. They want everything but your firstborn child. They want your driver's license number, your gender, your everything, your address, your full name. And I'm like, wait a minute, I just want to let you guys know we have graffiti in this area and to check it out. And to me, when someone wants to see something, say something, they shouldn't have to jump through hoops. It should be, my name and phone number or address or email address. But giving out all that personal information, including my age, I think is a little bit too much, and I think that's a little unreasonable when people are trying to give information. Information's power. The city should want that information. And if you put up roadblocks, you're not going to have any useful information because people get sidetracked. They're not going to sit down there. I'm going to my wallet and wait a minute. I just want to let you guys know there's graffiti in this one area. And that's Vista and Dis by the firehouse. One gentleman just put up a brick wall. Well, it's vinyl, it looks like brick, and it's all painted and destroyed. But if you could make it easier, that would be great.
Thank you.
Okay. Have a good day. I'm back to my house. Bye.
Thanks for coming down. All right, Kim Donahue, followed by Tracy Holland.
Good afternoon, Mayor and council members. My name's Kim Donahue. I see some very familiar faces up here. But for those of you who don't know me, I wanted to introduce, I'm in a new position. I work for the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs. It is a brand-new position that's been created. I'm out of the Public Affairs Department, and I am the Veterans Outreach Program Specialist. I know that from past, the City of Sparks has done an outstanding job in supporting our veterans, and I just wanted to take this opportunity to introduce myself and for those of you who don't know me, and to say that I look forward to hopefully planning some future events to support our veterans and our military families of the City of Sparks and surrounding communities. So thank you very much. Just wanted to introduce and say it's a new position and that the VA looks forward to continued collaborations with the City of Sparks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Tracy Holland, followed by Mark Markel.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Councilman, council people. So I'm here on behalf of the Northern Nevada Construction Building Trades. I wanted to show support for the lands bill, the 9.2 on the agenda. And we feel that it's going to generate a lot of good jobs for our members. We think it's a good deal. It's going to be good to help grow our workforce, help us train some more apprentices, help us, grow for this area. So with that, thank you. Thank you for your
Tracy.
time.
Appreciate it. Okay, Mark Markel, followed by David Schwaderer. Am I getting even close? Very good. Go ahead, Mark.
Mark has asked me to read from this statement. A Yucaipa man was in critical condition Friday at Loma Linda University Medical Center, where he was taken for treatment of head injuries after a car crash Thursday, authorities said. Mark Markel, 24, was thrown from a 1977 Datsun as it overturned on Live Oak Canyon Road at the eastbound Interstate 10 off-ramp at 4:30 p.m., said California Highway Patrol Officer Amber Drysdale. Markel was riding south on Live Oak Canyon Road when the car lost control, struck a curb, and skidded into the off-ramp. The vehicle rolled over several times and landed on top of Mark Markel, Drysdale said.
Thank you. I have to read this because I don't talk very well and can't read very well. I can't track. But good afternoon, City Council members, City Manager, and Mr. Mayor, City Council members, and City Manager, and Attorney. How are you doing? Anyways, my name is Mark Markel, and I'm a concerned Nevada resident. And I want to be a perfect example of what can happen when you get in the car with the drunk driver. I was a passenger, of course, and it landed on my head. It just didn't land on me. I didn't break any bones. It just landed on my head, put me in a coma for a month. And I was in the hospital for about 1.5 months more. And I just want to be an example of what can happen. You shouldn't drink and drive in the first place, but be careful not to drive with drunk drivers. I shouldn't say this, but I won't. But yes, I will. If you want to be drunk and drive, that's not okay. But don't put anyone else's life in jeopardy. Like I was a pastor and I was minding my own business. And I was probably passed out, I don't know. But I was ejected and it landed on my head. And there's just no point in driving with a drunk driver. I'm stupid. My brain, I'm not stupid. I don't, is that the bell?
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, I'll shut up, sir.
Next time you come.
I'll come back in about 2 months and tell you the rest.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
David Schwager, followed by Dan Morgan.
Hi, I'd like to thank the city council and in particular Neil for running a great town. I've lived here 4 years. It's just spectacular. I'd like to thank all of the predecessor city councils, all the predecessor city managers. Yeah, Desert Highlands got a little rough. The city came out and fixed it. They just fixed Tunbridge. I think it's Tunbridge down below us. We had a fire in the neighborhood. The next day, there were 20, count them, 20 firemen walking a 5-acre steep slope, probably looking for an ignition source. Very, very hot sun. Parks and Recreation Department does a magnificent job. Enjoyed the concert out at the marina, which is a spectacular community facility. And 3 days a week, I get to swim at Al Sorensen. Yeah, they're working on getting that filter fixed. They're doing everything they can. But more importantly, I think the city manager should know that it is spectacularly run. Sean Olson has a great staff. And in fact, when he could not hire lifeguards at the end of the COVID problem, he was personally manning the lifeguard station. It's just absolutely wonderful, and I wanted to thank the city. I'm sorry that I can't bring any complaints, but I'm going to live here for another 40 years, and by God.
I'm used to having people compliment, so thank you for that.
You know, a little gratitude goes a long way. It's a magnificent community. Thank you guys ever so much.
Thank you.
And I'm dressed this way because I was in the water 45 minutes ago.
All right. Dan Morgan, followed by Trey Abney.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. For the record, Dan Morgan on behalf of the Builders Association of Northern Nevada. On behalf of our more than 700 member companies and our board of directors, the Builders Association is very much in support of well-balanced, comprehensive public land legislation that addresses the economic development, housing, recreation, and conservation needs of Western Nevada and Washoe County specifically. We very much look forward to working with our federal delegation, the City of Sparks and your staff, and other local government entities and agencies, and other stakeholders in a process that will provide our community with the greatest long-term strategic benefits. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Appreciate that. Trey Abney, followed by Ben Harris.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, members of council, Mr. Manager, Mr. City Attorney. For the record, Trey Abney here on behalf of NAIOP Northern Nevada, and we are here before you today in strong support of the resolution outlined in Agenda Item 9.2, dealing with the federal lands bill for this region. We are a growing, vibrant community. Longtime Nevadans are staying here, and brand new Nevadans are moving here because of the economic, cultural, and quality of life opportunities that we have here. And NAIOP applauds this council for helping to assure that all of those opportunities continue to exist, certainly at least within the city of Sparks. However, our region has a unique challenge of having lots of land that surrounds us, but no land that we can utilize to maintain and enhance all of these opportunities that I just mentioned. We need more land for housing. We need more land for retail and more land for logistics companies. Our members build the places where you live, work, eat, and play. If you think housing prices are too high, we need to support a federal lands bill. If you think traffic is awful in the North Valleys and getting to Story County, you need to support a federal lands bill. If you think we need to conserve our pristine, only in Nevada landscapes, then we need to support a federal lands bill. And finally, if you think we need more resources for parks and the Truckee River, we need to support a federal lands bill. Bottom line, we are out of developable land for residential by 2038. We are out of developable land for office and retail by 2030. That was done by a study that we partnered with EDON with and the city of Sparks and other governments in our region. And our backward property tax system demands that we have responsible, thoughtful growth. So NAIOP urges you and our federal delegation to do everything you can to get this done. It is certainly our number one priority, and we will stand beside you to make this happen. Thank you much. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Trey, we appreciate that. Ben Harris.
Mr. Mayor, Council, appreciate your time. My name is Ben Harris. I'm a principal owner with Street Commercial Real Estate here on the behalf of NAIOP Northern Nevada, the Commercial Real Estate Development Association. Just to, go back to some of Trey's comments, I'd like to give you a case study. I'd like to give you multiple case studies, but limited time here. Just so you know, on the industrial side, there's literally a 2% vacancy on industrial product in the state of, or city of Sparks. Big box logistics, those rents are increasing. They're going through the roof with 33% rent growth year over year in Northern Nevada. It's sustainable for developers making big money, but it's not as sustainable for tenants trying to get into our market. We've seen multiple tenants close their businesses because they're facing renewals on leases. That's not going to get any easier unless we have more product to offer these companies, both large and small. And last point I want to make real quick is, it's a very competitive market for companies leaving the state of California. We know it's happening. We can embrace it or we can kick them down the road. But when they stop in Reno and Sparks, they love it here. They don't want to go any further. So let's make it easier for them to get here, and we can build the product for them that they need. Thank you all.
Thank you, Ben. All right, anyone else wishing to speak under public comment? Okay, seeing none, I'll bring it back to the dais, and with that, I'm moving on to 5.1, approval of the agenda. Mr. Anderson.
Yes, I'd like to move to approve the agenda, but I ask that we move item 9.3 to item 10.1.
Okay, I've got a motion. Do I have a second? Nothing's coming up on, oh, there he is, Mr. Dare.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. All right, now we're looking for approval of the minutes from the June 26th meeting. Mr. Abbott.
I move to approve the minutes of the Sparks City Council meeting for June 26, 2023.
Ms. Vanderwell.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Motion carries unanimously. 7.1, Boards and Commission vacancy announcement. The Sparks Police Advisory Committee. Mr. Manager.
Good afternoon, Mayor Lawson and members of the City Council. For the record, Neil Kreutz, your city manager. There are currently 5 vacancies on the Sparks Police Advisory Committee, each for 2-year terms ending September 30th of 2025. The vacancies include 3 members at large, 1 business representative, and 1 multicultural representative. Members shall either be residents or business owners within the city of Sparks. If selected, members must participate in a Sparks Police Department Citizens Academy and undergo a background check. Applications for these vacancies will be accepted until Friday, August 25th at 5 p.m. If you're interested in applying for this or any committee within the city of Sparks, please go online to our website, cityofsparks.us/getinvolved. That's all one big word. Once you're there, complete the volunteer application and hit submit. Thank you.
Thank you. 7.2, bird scooter introduction.
Hello.
Good afternoon, Mayor, members of council, Amber Sosa, Transportation Manager. It's my pleasure to introduce you to TJ Burkle from Bird. He's going to give you an introduction to the company he represents. This company is the one currently providing electric scooters over in Reno. And with that, TJ, I'll let you take it away.
Thank you, Amber. Can you guys see this somewhere? Or is this on your screen?
We've got it on.
Okay, there, okay, great. Is this good right here? Should I move?
Oh,
Okay,
you're good
okay,
right
all right.
there. Can you reach your clicker so you're good to go?
Yep. All right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members and others. Very much appreciate you having me here today. As Amber mentioned, my name is TJ Burkle. I manage government partnerships and community relationships for Bird in a number of western states, including Nevada. Very excited to be here today. Oh, and I wanted to mention, please feel free, I'd love this to be conversational. If you have questions or comments, no need to wait to the end if you want to jump in. Please feel free to do so. In my experience with city council members, that's usually not a problem, but would invite the dialogue and the back and forth. And just wanted to say I applaud the council and the city of Sparks for considering micromobility. I think we've seen it as a concept now in hundreds of cities around the US and around the world, and something that many cities are turning to as at least part of the solution for their transportation needs, their transportation infrastructure needs. So I'm really excited to be here, talk to you more about it today, and answer some questions today. So Bird is, micromobility as we know it today, basically shared electric scooters and shared e-bikes. That industry is only about 6 years old, and Bird really kind of created the industry as we know it today. We're currently in over 350 cities globally. We're on 4 continents. We're rapidly approaching 200 million rides. And I would just note, sort of in the region, we're the sole provider of micromobility services in Reno. We operate in South Lake Tahoe. We're in a number of cities in Northern California and really throughout California, and really any other state in the region that you can think of. Utah, Oregon, we're in Montana, anywhere you can think of that's sort of in the West and across the country we're operating in. One thing I really like to make sure right off the bat is, when a city goes with a shared micromobility option, it basically requires no public investment. So if it was Bird, for instance, we provide the scooters, we provide the charging equipment, we have the staff that manages the fleet of vehicles, recharges them, repairs them, puts them back out on the streets and makes them available. And so I would make one note here, I guess, in the interest of full transparency, there may be an investment of a city staff member or two, their time. I think most cities, it's really up to the city about how much or how little you might want to have staff involvement in the program. But I would certainly recommend that you have at least one point person sort of overseeing the program, because as I'll get into in my presentation, the programs are very customizable for the city, and so it helps us to know what you want. It helps to have a point of contact for anything from large events to working with the downtown or even complaints, which we get on occasion, so that sort of thing. I don't know if any of you been over in Reno and tried a scooter in Reno or anywhere else, or you don't have to. No, not yet. Okay, we'll get you on one, Mr. Mayor. But basically, how it works is it's pretty simple. You download the app, and then the first time you do it, you're prompted to go. You receive a number of prompts as the user, so you've got to sign a user agreement. Riders have to be 18 years or older, so we don't allow riders under the age of 18, so you have to verify your age. You add a payment method, usually a credit card. And then there are a number of educational tutorials, and this is one of the many ways that we can customize based on what the city wants the rider to see. So if you want the rider to see a tutorial or a message on safe riding, proper parking behavior, wearing helmets, we can do multiple messages if you like. We can really customize those educational tutorials that the riders see before they even get on a scooter. And then basically, when you find your scooter on the road and you want to activate it, you simply open the app and scan the QR code, and it unlocks, and off you go. Pricing is, so it's $1 to unlock, and then usually in the range of 39 to 45 cents per minute. So it's a per minute charge. The average cost of a ride is about $7 per ride. So I'm not great at math, but that's somewhere slightly under a 15-minute ride, and really reinforces the idea that micromobility is a last mile, last 3 mile, somewhere in there solution. And that's really what it's meant to be. We also have a number of equitable pricing options, which I'll get into in the next slide, but in the interest of making the service available to as many people as possible. And this is another thing. These are, I get, the ones that are listed here are some of the most common equitable pricing options. Excuse me. But this is another area where we've worked with cities to really customize all different kinds of equity programs. But we offer community pricing for individuals who may be on certain government programs. That's a full 50% off both the unlock fee and the per minute fee. We have options where if you don't have a smartphone, you can do a text to unlock feature. If you don't have a credit card, we've partnered with a number of large national retailers like CVS, Walgreens, 7-Eleven, where you can go into these locations and with cash add money to your Bird account. So trying to get at the ways in which there might be barriers to access. We have a number of programs sort of attacking that problem from a number of different angles. And then, I know there's a lot of questions. Scooters, I think, are still viewed as pretty new, and with that come a lot of questions about safety and what we've seen. And this is based on federal data combined with, or for the other modes of transportation combined with Bird's data. But what we've seen is the medical incident rate is roughly the same as bikes. And so, scooters are proving to be a pretty safe method to get around and to move. So generally speaking, our preferred method of operating is what's called a dockless model. And so the idea is that a user or a rider can pick up a scooter, and maybe that's a certain part of downtown, and maybe they're going to ride it 4 blocks down the road and stop at a store or a restaurant or whatever it might be, and they can leave their scooter there, and then the next rider picks it up in that scenario. I would just flag, we think this works the best, and the data shows that the more flexibility you provide, the more ridership goes up. So allowing people to use the devices where they are and where they want to go tends to work. I can certainly understand that might provide plenty of heartache to cities and city officials. And I would just point out here that there's a wide range of things that we've done in, as I mentioned, we operate in hundreds of cities. We've probably solved for any number of problems that you can think of, but there's a wide range of things we can do, whether it's parking infrastructure or preferred parking areas identified both in the app and with physical infrastructure if you prefer. We can certainly geofence, and I'll get into that technology in a minute a little bit. We can geofence certain areas if there's areas where you don't want scooters at all, or where maybe it makes sense to have a scooter, but you want it capped at a lower speed than would otherwise be allowed. There are all kinds of things we can do to put some restrictions in place if the city wants to go that direction. And so I'm happy, if folks have questions or want to talk more about that, I'm happy to do that. I mentioned our geofencing technology. So all of our vehicles are equipped with the geofencing technology. And so basically, riders are not only notified on their phone within the app, but the device also reacts itself. So if you've got a 3-block area downtown, that's a no ride zone. That would be the red showing up in the middle picture there. The vehicle will literally sort of come to a gradual halt, and the rider will be able to walk back out of that area, and they'll also be notified. But the rider will be able to walk out of that area, but they won't be able to ride in that area. Basically, each of our vehicles is constantly pinging, communicating with our servers, so we literally know where every vehicle is at all times, assuming it's on. And so that's how we're able to do that. And so this is another area where we can really get down into the nitty-gritty when it comes to customizing based on the desires of the city. And this is one of the areas where we work closest with cities in setting up certain geofences. And the other thing I'll note is a lot of times in cities, this might be like event specific, right? We've got a 2-day 4th of July, parade and festival, and so we really don't want scooters in this 6-block radius. Or we've got 3 days worth of concerts, and scooters would be helpful, but we want to slow them down to 8 miles per hour, or whatever it might be. So we can do that like instantly and then lift it, quickly as well. So that's another thing we can do based on what's going on in the city. In almost all of our cities, the way we manage our fleet of scooters is through what we call our Fleet Manager program. And so we partner with small businesses in the community. Oftentimes, these are individuals or businesses who have related experience. Maybe they own an auto body shop, they're a mechanic. At this point, 6 years into the industry, maybe they've done work for another micromobility company. There's sort of a range of things that we look for. And then our fleet managers are responsible for managing the fleet of vehicles. If there's a misplaced vehicle, that's who we send to go pick it up. If a damaged vehicle, the fleet managers fix them, or if they're beyond repair, they send them back to us. They recharge the vehicles on a regular basis, redeploy them back out into the city. And we found that this model really works well because these are individuals who are in the community. They're often hiring other people. So, and it's a revenue share program. So if we're making money, they're making money, and that money stays in the community. So it's a great opportunity for one or more sort of local small businesses and entrepreneurs. And just generally speaking, if you were to go forward with a program with Bird, you'd have a team. This actually doesn't include me. That's troubling, but you'd have a team inclusive of a general. So I have a counterpart who's a general manager focused on all things operations, right? Where are the scooters, managing the fleet managers, that sort of thing. And so it would be the general manager and myself as kind of the two leading staff members from Bird who you would have a relationship with, and then we'd have others, the engagement manager and the operations associate would also be Bird employees who are dedicated to this account. So you'd have multiple people from Bird overseeing the account, working regularly with the city. In most of the cities where we operate, I've got anywhere from like weekly calls to monthly calls. Again, it kind of depends on what the city wants, and we usually fall into a cadence that works and makes sense. But regular touch points, especially early on when we're sort of, if we would be moving forward and planning for launch, there's a lot of details to iron out in advance of the launch and then shortly after launch. And then we kind of fall into a good routine and a good pattern. But there's several operations focused individuals, and then myself doing the sort of external facing work as well. And then one other thing I'd love to point out is Emory University did a study. It basically showed over a 6-month period for communities that have micromobility programs, there was basically an increase of about $1,100 in local spend. This was mainly focused at restaurant and retail over 6 months. So we extrapolated that out to a full year and estimated about $2,200 per scooter deployed. And so there's an economic development component to having scooters as well. People are able to get around easier. They're able to get further than they would otherwise go, and spending more money at local shops, restaurants, and businesses, et cetera. And I'll wrap up here. Again, applaud the city for considering Micromobility, I'd love to answer any questions you might have. We think Sparks would be a great city for micromobility. We'd be excited to talk further about a partnership. And I think it especially makes sense. Our program in Reno, we're the only one, the solo operator in Reno. It's been a fantastic partnership. We've been really well received by the community in Reno. I can say the same in South Lake Tahoe. Those are two of our best markets anywhere in the U.S. And so we think Sparks would be another great option, and really excited to talk to you about it.
Okay, questions from the council? Ms. Bybee?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for being here. And a couple questions. First of all, the amount of scooters right now you have deployed in Reno compared to what you were contemplating if you were to start a program here in Sparks?
Sure, we have, so our cap, like the maximum amount we can have out at any time in Reno is 1,000 scooters. There's, every city is a little bit different, and it's a little bit, there's an art and a science to it. So you look at, population, look at things like geography. If there's a university, there's a lot of different factors we consider. And then also, that's something that we would take direction from the city on as well. I would recommend a community of Sparks, a little over 100,000 people. Is that accurate? So, I would recommend, and then the other thing, putting this a different way, another thing to consider is we always recommend starting with a smaller number and then scaling up from there, so you can assess demand, assess ridership patterns, look at the data, work out any kinks, et cetera. So I would say for Sparks, maybe a cap of this is totally off the top of my head, and our operations people would be better than me at this, but maybe 300 to 400, somewhere in there, but starting with an amount that's smaller than that and working up from there.
Okay. And does it vary seasonally?
It does.
Winter's a little bit tougher around here sometimes.
Yeah, and this winter seemed like it was never going to end, this past winter, as you guys know. But it does vary seasonally. So in some markets, we are required to remove scooters during the winter, even when we're not, we don't put more out if they're not being ridden. That's in nobody's interest. And so we'll reduce the size of the fleet during the winter in seasonal markets where there's a real winter.
Okay. And just one more question. I know when all of the different micromobility and scooters, Lime and Bird and the various others, there seem to be a lot of issues with them because it's a dockless system of scooters piled up, of blocking access for moms in strollers or, someone in a wheelchair or even just pedestrians. And how are you managing where the scooters are and where they're picked up? And if one is left middle of the Pyramid Highway or in the Truckee River, or on top of a bridge in the Truckee River, but kind of how do you manage at times, and even in Reno, I've seen like clusters of them, and then they become almost a pedestrian hazard. What has changed in the technology? Because when I first saw these, it was several years ago when they were really pretty new.
Sure, and I was not here in the early days of the industry, but definitely those sort of horror stories are out there and prominent. And I will never tell a city that there will never be an obstruction issue. Like eventually that will happen if you have a micromobility program. There will be instances where scooters are somewhere that they're not supposed to be, just being fully upfront. There's a combination of things we try to do to address that. Our fleet managers, first and foremost, are responsible, and we try to keep our response times. So there's multiple notification methods. So whether it's an elected official or just a person on the street, where they can notify us that there's a misplaced scooter, and we try to keep response times under 2 hours. And so our fleet managers are responsible for going and getting those vehicles or getting them, if they're in the wrong place, getting them back in the right place. Again, I mentioned the geofencing technology, and we're able to see where our scooters are at all times. And so we're able to monitor them as well, which was just not the case. I mean, in the early days, it was literally buying scooters off the shelf and sticking our brains on them. And the technology has come a long way since then. And so there are a lot of things that we do because this is, this is a top priority for every city where we operate, is clutter, and understand that's a real concern. Yeah.
Okay, anybody else?
Yeah.
Diane?
Thank you for the presentation. I appreciate it. My one question is, I realize that you say that they have to be 18 years old or older. How do you verify that?
We have, it's a self-verification. We also have technology where we can require ID verification when the user's setting up their account.
Okay, because, I mean, people can do math and say they're 18. So I guess that's my concern is,
Sure.
is it by a driver's license or is it by an ID card to verify that they are truly 18 years old or older?
I can double check that for you. I believe the way the ID verification technology works is it's any government issued ID.
Okay,
They can
thank
verify
you.
the age, yep.
Mr. Dare?
Yeah, so you know our history a little bit. So you know we had these and we had them go away because they weren't working and things of that fashion. So we obviously have the same concerns from ADA, someone on a wheelchair trying to get through a sidewalk, that these things are sitting there, to just safety on the streets because they can't be riding on our sidewalks. So I saw some of your pictures of people on sidewalks. So I know here we don't do that. So just something you might want to think about on that. So I'm just trying to think back, because I really almost want to ask Amber, and I say this, that our staffs, we look at them as heroes, so I'm going to go to my hero over here. I'm trying to think in our city where this could be a good thing, and I'm trying to be careful not to just say, I don't like them, they didn't work, because that just doesn't always, new technology is not to be scared of, but I could imagine maybe something from like Walmart to, you're putting that new thing in Pyramid, but where would we envision, do we even think as a city this could even work? Where it wouldn't bring people in the street where it's causing issues, especially how we park and drive and do what we do?
Mayor, members of council, Amber Sosa, Transportation Manager. I definitely think there's a lot of opportunities they could be used. With opportunity does come challenge. One thing that instantly comes to my head is the limitations in parking in our downtown for events. I do think micromobility could help that, where it could be more comfortable to park even further away and then use a scooter to access it. A challenge that comes with that is when we get to our special events, where do we put them and how do we put them safely? Another challenge I know that we did with the first time is our marina. We don't allow any motorized vehicles in our marina, but we do a lot of amazing events such as Music in the Marina, the one that's just coming up. So definitely a lot of opportunities. You talked about Walmart on Pyramid. That one will have a shared use path, so that's different than a sidewalk. These would be allowed on a shared use path. So again, not saying that they're perfect for all locations, but there is a host of opportunities and challenges.
That's kind of part of my thought and question, to not be just someone's like, no, scooters are bad. I'm not doing that. But maybe if there was a way to prove it by putting it in a few places that could make sense, that might be an interesting thing for me, especially when I think of some of those long jaunts of trying to get people places and just trying to help. So that's one of the things. The other thing you did mention is that maybe we need a point person. One of the things we do is budgeting. Are you helping pay for that salary, or are you saying that's a cost we would incur?
That the individual's time would be a cost that the city would incur, but there's no out-of-pocket cost in terms of dollars and cents when it comes to paying for scooters or anything, or bird staff or anything like that.
And then my final thing I'd say is I like bicycles better. So if you do that, I'd be very supportive. But
Fair enough. To your first point, council member, I would say a couple of things. First of all, we can work with the city to identify a specific operating area. So if there were parts of the city that you didn't want, if it was scooters, for instance, you didn't want the scooters to go, we could just completely geofence that off. Our recommendation is always, I sort of hinted at this earlier, our recommendation is always to start with as much flexibility as possible. And after we start the program, then we can sort of analyze the data and ridership patterns and then let that inform the decision of maybe other areas that we don't think it makes sense to allow the scooters. But we would certainly be able to work with you on that. But we can certainly sort of identify a specific operating area within the city if that was a route you wanted to go.
Mr. Abbott.
Sir, thank you. So on the point person over in Reno, I guess, how many hours are they contributing to you guys in a month?
In Reno, we have sorry, I'm just trying, we have, we have a bi-weekly call. There's a couple, we have a couple of folks at Public Works and the sustainability manager as well. So we have a bi-weekly call, which is a half an hour. And then we have sort of a monthly call to talk about sort of bigger picture issues, and that's like 45 minutes usually. And then if there's anything specific sort of on a one-off basis, we usually again, it's all city specific, depending on who runs this stuff. In Reno in particular, it's the police department that will notify us when there are upcoming events and they want certain streets closed down. So those are notifications we just get via email from the police department. But so overall, I would say in a given month, it's, a couple hours or less of work for a handful of different people.
Just making sure it wasn't a full-time.
No, definitely not,
sort of
definitely
thing.
not.
And then my other one was going to a scooter that's parked in, say in a sidewalk where someone's in a wheelchair trying to get by and they don't have the app. They can call. Is there a phone number they can call?
There's a phone number right on the scooter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's all.
And an email address as well.
Got it. And that's also in the 2 hours. I was not expecting that quick of response.
Always our goal.
And so I guess on it's a busy day. Is it going to be 4 hours, like same day? I guess what's your maximum? Like 2 hours is the goal, but
I can follow up with you with sort of average response times, or I can get you something more specific if you like.
Awesome. Thank you.
Sure.
Mr. Anderson.
I like the idea. I think, as you described it, the last mile. I was thinking if I was taking the bus and I'm now walking that last half mile or mile to my work or my home, how nice it would be to have one of these to get that last little bit. My question then is more along the lines of and I'm thinking of all the apartment complexes surrounding the marina. So the marina, we don't allow motorized vehicles. So I wouldn't be able to use it at the marina, but it would be off of the marina. Would I have to push it by the marina, or I'm just trying to visualize if I were living in the apartment next to the marina, how I could use it, or would that be out of the question for me?
No, it wouldn't be out of the question. I think we could work on a couple of different solutions there. Either maybe some sort of exemption to allow riders just to get directly to their apartment building, but still maybe not be able to ride anywhere else on the marina. I can't visualize it, so perhaps that wouldn't work. Another thing we could do is set up a preferred parking location or multiple preferred parking locations where individuals or sort of were notified that this is a parking area as near to the apartment building as we could possibly get. And there's, I mentioned earlier, there's different ways we can do that. So we can highlight those preferred parking areas in the app, and then we can also do physical infrastructure. We always recommend not starting with drilling a hole and putting a big sign in the ground saying scooter parking or whatever, but there's all sorts of things we can do on sort of the heavy grip tape, or stenciling, a micromobility logo or a bird logo to sort of notify individuals that, this is a preferred parking area. So that's something we could work with the city on in terms of, how close can we get to the apartment complex, or do we need multiple spots for parking where individuals could park and know. I would envision, in a heavy traffic area, it sounds like that's apartment buildings in the marina. So that would be an area where we would want to have some locations anyway, right? Because we would want a concentration of scooters there.
And so the last question I had, it's been a couple of years since I've used one of these, so I imagine technology has improved.
Sure.
I know there were certain areas where it would automatically slow down. So I imagine that would be the more heavily congested, more pedestrian traffic and such. But we left the geofencing area, and we didn't know it until we actually came to a stop. So as long as we were moving, it kept going, and it wasn't until we stopped that it stopped, and we got to push it all the way back. But has the technology changed to where it actually would shut off at the fence line, or how does that work?
It's pretty close to instantaneous at this point. And so, again, the geofenced areas would be, we would take our direction from the city on where you wanted those areas. But if you're entering a no-ride zone and the device completely stops, or you're entering a slow ride zone and it slows down, It's, you know, maybe a matter of seconds, but it's pretty instantaneous at this point. And well, that's, you bring up another good point, and I'd be happy to offer, as the council considers this and maybe discusses it further, I'd be happy to come back with our demo team, and we could demo sort of our, our latest and greatest scooters, and it wouldn't be hard. We could grab a couple over in Reno and bring them over here and do a scooter demo if you want to continue to discuss this.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, anyone else? All right, thank you.
Thank you very much for the time today. I really appreciate it.
Okay, we move on to consent items. Anyone wishing to pull a consent item? If not, I'm looking for a motion. Ms. Vanderwell.
I move to approve consent items 8.1 through 8.3 as submitted.
Mr. Abbott.
Second.
Okay, I've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Motion carries unanimously. All right, let's move on to 9.1. Consideration, discussion, and possible ratification of the city manager's decision to approve change order number 1 to an approved contract with Sierra Nevada Construction for the 2023 RDA number 1 street rehabilitation project in the amount of $62,425. Amber.
Thank you, Mayor, Member of Council. Amber Sosa, Transportation Manager. This item for your consideration is a possible ratification of the city manager's decision to approve change order number 1. This is for our 2023 RDA number 1 street rehabilitation project. The map on the screen is to remind you of this project that's happening right here near City Hall. To orientate yourself, you'll see Parader towards the top with City Hall up in the upper right corner and Parader just to your left. The streets that are included on this are Right Way, E Street, 5th, 6th, and 7th. With this project, we'll rehabilitate any deteriorating curb and gutter concrete infrastructure as well as the entire roadway section. During design of this project, the underground utilities were checked, and while none were tagged for needing replacement at that time, during construction, we found an issue with the storm drain line. Upon further analysis, it was recommended that this 8-inch line needed to be replaced, and as well as adding an additional manhole for access for maintenance. This change order is representing that failing storm drain infrastructure. To get a little more specific, the storm drain infrastructure is right here on 7th Street, and it's right between E and F. We requested expediting the approval for this change order to save additional delays for the construction schedule as well as additional costs. The change order is $62,450. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions from the council? If not, I'm looking for a motion. Mr. Abbott.
I move to ratify the city manager's decision to approve change order number 1 to an approved contract with Sierra Nevada Construction for the 2023 RDA number 1 street rehabilitation project in the amount of $62,425.
Mr. Anderson.
I'll second that.
I've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Motion carries unanimously. Thanks, Amber. 9.2, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of resolution number 3428, requesting the Nevada's federal congressional delegation to advance federal public lands legislation to support conservation, recreation, and economic development in the Truckee Meadows region. I'm assuming you guys are up.
Tag team.
Tag team, you're it. I'm it. Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and council members, Mr. Attorney, and Mr. Manager. Thank you for your time today. Well, this is a major milestone for us. We've come a long way, and we've all worked hard on this. So before I start, I'd like to say thank you to each of you for your support, your guidance, answering our questions, you helping us with contacts of who we should reach out to, and it's been very successful. But most of all, your patience. It's been a long time. The staff report is complete. I think it explains the resolution very well of what we would like to do for that, in that federal legislation for the city and for our region. On April 2016, your previous council members, including Councilwoman Ratty, Councilwoman Bybee, Councilman Lawson, and Councilman Smith, passed a resolution very similar to this, and it was signed by Gino Martini. So over the past couple of years, we've been working hard doing reach out to the business community, educating them the importance of this, and a whole bunch of other stakeholders throughout the region. And everyone's come together, and that's why we're here today. That's all I have. Unless you have any questions for me, I'll turn it over to Scott for his comments.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, members
I
of
have
the
a
council.
button back here just to mess with you.
Yeah, I understand. Didn't take much. The resolution before you obviously is in many ways very generic in nature. As you're probably well aware, the Truckee Meadows Lands Bill is still, while there is draft language from Senator Rosen, it is still very much a work in progress. The resolution really touches on support for the federal delegation undergoing a pretty extensive negotiation process to not just make sure that locally we have the kind of means of support that we're hoped to, but as we go to the federal process, there are a whole lot of people who will have a say, both staff and elected members, who don't know a whole lot about the Truckee Meadows, about our needs for development, about our conservation needs. So we have our local piece, and this is really the first part of that. And then we move off to hopefully we move off to the federal piece, and we have a lot of additional stakeholders who need to be educated, need to be brought along. We in the West and in Nevada specifically are getting used to the concept of what's in a lands bill. I can assure you they are foreign to most people on the committees that these bills through which they will travel. So this is generic. It's essentially saying to our federal delegation, please move forward. The one thing we really don't want to have happen is get through this process, have our delegation go through all the work needed to put language together, get it introduced, and then have local Truckee Meadows electeds come back and say, wow, this isn't what we wanted at all. So this is just the initial first step, but we hope it's the first of many to get this done. Thank you.
Okay, questions from the council? Anybody?
I'll say so.
Mr. Dare, of course.
Hey, well, first, I just want to say thank you. And we obviously have all been walking through this and talking about this. And I appreciate everyone coming out to show their support because I think that what we're talking about is both visionary and strategic. And truthfully, it won't necessarily 100% affect while we may be in office, all the things that this thing can become. But I hope anybody out there that's wondering what's going on is that we are really looking at 20, 30 years down the road, making sure, obviously we want to see things ahead of time. We want to see some traffic shifting. We want to see some help right away. But the truth is, the bigger picture is that we're looking at the larger thing. And so thank you to Amadei and Rosen and Cortez Masto and everybody just joining us in that, looking down the road to our grandkids and great-grandkids of what's going to be there. So thank you more than a question, except can it be done tomorrow? I'm just kidding. But thank you, I appreciate it.
Okay. Anyone else? Just from me, said thank you guys. You guys been down this road with me for a while, and we're getting closer. So,
Yes, sir.
with that, then I am looking for a motion. Ms. Bybee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move to approve Resolution Number 3428, requesting Nevada's federal congressional delegation to advance federal public lands legislation to support conservation, recreation, and economic development in the Truckee Meadows region.
Okay, Mr. Dare.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, guys. This is step one of a whole bunch more, but
Again, thank you very much.
got to
Thank you,
finish
guys.
one step before we get the other ones.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, 9.3 was moved to 10.1, so 9.4. What are we gonna do? This one, we're gonna read it? Okay. Consideration, discussion, and possible approval of a retainer agreement, AC 5792, with Deborah L. Schroeder, JD, AWI-CH, to provide complaint-based investigation into the city manager and the performance of his duties under his contract at an hourly rate of $225 per hour, with a not to exceed to be determined by the city council. Mr. Anderson.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to make a motion to move this agenda item to our August 14th city council meeting.
Can you give us just one moment to? Continue the item to August 14th, city council?
Okay, Mr. Anderson, and then looking for a second. Mr. Dare. Got a
I second
motion?
that.
Thank you. Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Jill. All right, 10.1, Madam Clerk, second reading.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is the second reading of Bill 2812, an amendment to Section 10.48.030, parking of oversized vehicles, an amendment to Section 9.40.040, solicitation of ride, business, or contribution from driver or occupant of vehicle prohibited, an amendment to Section 9.48.030, unlawful to camp on public property, general provisions of the Sparks Municipal Code, and the adoption of Section 10.48.250, human habitation of vehicles on public property, the adoption of Section 10.48.260, obstructive uses of public sidewalks, right-of-way, and public streets are prohibited, the adoption of Chapter 9.61, use of generators and fires, the adoption of Section 9.61.10, outdoor fires and portable open flame devices, the adoption of Section 9.61.20, blow torches and propane tanks or containers, and the adoption of Section 9.61.30, portable generators.
Okay.
So, Mr. Mayor, based on a noticing issue, I would request that this item be opened up for public hearing. We'll close it, and then we have a motion to move this to the August 14th city council meeting.
Okay. We need someone to make that motion. Oh, public hearing. Anyone in the public wishing to speak at this time? There's only Bill left in the public here, so we'll close it. Bring it back to the dais for a motion. Mr. Abbott.
I move to continue this item to the August 14th, 2023 City Council meeting.
Ms. Vanderwell.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Motion carries unanimously. We don't have any planning and zoning public hearings. Any comments from the public? We don't have anybody in the public. Although, Bill, this is usually where you raise your hand and want to speak. Okay. Announcements from the mayor, city council, and city manager. Mr. Manager, you got anything?
I do not.
Council?
I do.
Mr. Dare?
Yes, I want to invite, and I'll make sure I get the right date, on the 26th, that'd be Wednesday, any seniors out there at the memorial, we're going to have coffee and Doughboy Donuts. And any of our city council, mayor, anybody's welcome to come out. And we're just going to walk through and just kind of have a time of letting them see the memorial and all the stuff that's coming up. So it's going to be a fun time. So please come join us. That is this Wednesday at 9 a.m.
Mr. Abbott.
Real quick, just want to thank Public Works for getting the cracks sealed over at the senior center. So they are very, very appreciative of that. And just want to thank our staff publicly for getting that done. Small fix, but it goes a long ways.
Yep. All right. Anyone else? Okay, with that, we are adjourned. Oh, we got an RDA.
Yeah, we do. Give us just a minute for redevelopment.
Give us just 1
Okay.
I can't comment on anyways.
Are we good? Okay.
She's good.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and call to order the Monday, July 24th meeting of the Redevelopment Agency with a roll call.
Chairperson Bybee?
Here.
Agency members Lawson? Abbott?
Here.
Vanderwell?
Here.
Anderson?
Here.
Dare?
Here.
Chief Legal Officer Duncan? Chief Administrative Officer Cruz?
Here.
We have a quorum, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Moving on to item 3.1, public comment. Do we have any public comment? Seeing none, I will close item 3.1. Agenda item 4.1, approval of the agenda. I have a motion, Agency Member Dare.
I move to approve the agenda as submitted.
Okay, Agency Member Abbott.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Otherwise, please vote. Motion carries unanimously, 6-0, because the mayor gets vote. Item 5.1, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of the minutes of the Sparks Redevelopment Agency meeting for June 26, 2023. Do I have any corrections, additions, or a motion to approve the minutes as submitted? Agency Member Vanderwell.
I move to approve the minutes of the Sparks Redevelopment Agency meeting for June 26, 2023.
Agency Member Anderson.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, please vote. Motion carries unanimously. Moving on to item 6.1, consideration and possible acceptance of the report of the claims and bills approved for payment and appropriation transfers for the period of June 12th, 2023 through July 11th, 2023. Looking for a motion to approve. Agency Member Vanderwell.
I move to accept the report of claims and bills and the appropriation transfers for the period of June 12th, 2023 through July 11th, 2023.
Agency Member Abbott.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, please vote. Motion carries unanimously. Moving on to item 8.1, comments from the public. No, Bill? Okay. I will close that item with hearing no comments from the public. Announcements from the agency and Chief Administrative Officer. Any announcements? Announcements? Okay, we'll close 8.2, and we are adjourned. Thank you.